2 years. It's a long time to live a lie. For Ethan Thorne, a self-made millionaire who'd clawed his way from the bottom to the very top, those 2 years felt like a lifetime of success. He had everything he thought he wanted: a booming portfolio, a penthouse that scraped the clouds, and a younger woman, a model named Victoria, whose beauty was as polished as his new life. He'd walked away from his marriage to Serafina without a second glance, leaving her pregnant and alone. He told himself that regret was a tax for the poor, an emotion he couldn't afford anymore. But as he stood frozen in a sun-drenched city park, he was about to come face to face with the two walking, talking reasons that his entire life was built on a lie. He was about to confront the family he destroyed and the children who were his undeniable spitting image. Before the betrayal, their life really did feel like a modern fairy tale. Ethan and Serafina were a team, a power couple. He was the ambitious go-getter, and she was his rock. Serafina, a brilliant and deeply loving woman, had been with him long before the millions and the magazine covers. She was an art curator, a woman with a passion for stories that had soul. Her quiet strength was the scaffolding Ethan used to build his empire. She believed in him when no one else did, celebrated his wins and calmed his fears in the dead of night. Their love was a masterpiece, and she was its curator. They lived in a beautiful brownstone, filled not just with expensive things, but with laughter and the shared promise of a future. It was there, in their sun-filled living room, that she told him the news. Her hands trembled a little as she held out a small, gift-wrapped box. Inside were 2 pairs of tiny baby shoes. "Twins, Ethan," she whispered, her eyes shining with tears of joy. "We're having twins." He held her, spun her around, and for a second the joy was real. He pictured a son and a daughter, the continuation of the Thorne legacy. But something cold had already taken root in his soul. The more successful he got, the more he saw his life not as a home, but as a brand that needed constant upgrades. And in his twisted new logic, a loyal wife who'd known him at his lowest was a relic of a past he wanted to forget. A month later, he dropped the bomb. He didn't ease into it or show a single ounce of remorse. He delivered the news with the same cold efficiency he used to close a business deal. "I'm leaving, Serafina." She was standing by the window, looking out at the garden they'd planted together. She turned, a small smile on her face, expecting him to announce a surprise trip, but the look in his eyes was one she'd never seen. He looked like a stranger. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, her heart starting to pound. "I've met someone," he said, adjusting the cuffs of his $1,000 shirt. "Her name is Victoria. She's younger, and she fits the world I live in now. It's just a better fit for my brand." For his brand. The words hit her like a punch to the gut. Her hand instinctively went to her stomach, where their 2 children were growing. "Ethan, what about us? What about the babies?" Her voice was barely a whisper. He sighed, a sound of pure annoyance, as if she were just a minor problem. "Look, Serafina, let's be real. A screaming baby or 2, that's not part of the life I'm building. It's messy. It's limiting. I'll have my lawyer draw up the papers. You'll be taken care of. Consider it a severance package." He turned and walked out. He didn't look back. He didn't see the woman he once claimed to love crumble to the floor, her body shaking with sobs. He didn't see their world shatter into a million pieces. He just got into his waiting sports car, where Victoria was checking her makeup in the mirror, and drove away toward his shiny, new, and utterly empty future. He left Serafina alone in the beautiful house that was now just a gilded cage, pregnant with the children he'd just dismissed like a bad investment. The pain was crushing, and in that moment of devastation, she wasn't just an abandoned wife, she was a black woman, pregnant and alone, all too aware that the world isn't always kind. The betrayal felt bigger than just him. It was a harsh reminder of how easily black women and their families can be cast aside. The first few months were a blur of pain and packing boxes. Ethan's lawyers were just as cold as he was, but Serafina refused to be broken. She wouldn't let his cruelty define her or her children's future. She took the settlement, not as a severance package, but as seed money for a new beginning. She sold the cold, empty brownstone and moved into a smaller, cozier apartment in a vibrant neighborhood, closer to her sister, Amara. Amara was her saving grace. She was there for the late-night tears, the morning sickness, and the nightmare of trying to build a crib from confusing instructions. She held Serafina's hand through hours of labor, and when the doctor announced a healthy baby boy and a healthy baby girl, it was Amara's cheers that filled the room. Serafina named them Leo and Luna. The moment she held them, two tiny, perfect beings in her arms, the gaping wound in her heart began to stitch itself back together. Looking at their faces, she didn't see Ethan, she saw her future. The days were long and the nights were longer. Some days the sheer exhaustion of doing it all alone felt unbearable. But then Leo would grab her finger with his tiny hand, or Luna would flash a gummy, infectious smile, and Serafina would find a strength she never knew she had. She found a community with other mums at the local park, sharing knowing smiles over fussy toddlers. She was living a story that so many women know by heart, one of resilience, powered by motherhood. As the twins grew, Serafina's own dreams started to bubble back to the surface. She started a small online business from her living room, curating and selling art from underrepresented local artists, especially women of color. She called it Sarah's Finds. It started small, but her keen eye and her story resonated with people. She wasn't just selling art, she was selling stories of resilience. She documented her journey online, sharing pictures of the art and candid moments of her life with the twins. Leo's wobbly first steps, a video of Luna's first word, Mama. She shared the beauty and the chaos, the struggle and the triumph. She was building a new life, brick by brick, filled with purpose, community, and so much love. Meanwhile, Ethan's life was a highlight reel of empty moments. He and Victoria were all over the society pages, the picture-perfect couple at galas and exclusive parties. He bought her cars, jewelry, anything she wanted. He was living the life he claimed he wanted, free of messy attachments. But often he'd find himself wide awake in the middle of the night, staring at the ceiling of his sterile penthouse, feeling a gnawing emptiness. Their conversations were about appearances, about which filter to use on their next social media post. There was no depth, no warmth. He started to realize he hadn't upgraded his life. He just traded something priceless for something that glittered. He was a millionaire, a success story, and he was profoundly alone. 2 years flew by. Leo and Luna were vibrant toddlers. Leo had his father's serious eyes, but his mother's warm smile. Luna had Serafina's artistic soul and a mischievous glint in her eye, though she'd inherited Ethan's stubborn chin. They were a perfect blend of both parents, but they were being raised in a world only one of them had bothered to build. Serafina's business was thriving. She'd just opened her first physical gallery. She was independent, happy, and whole. She rarely thought of Ethan anymore. He was a ghost from a past life, a memory that no longer hurt. It was a perfect autumn Saturday. Serafina took the twins to a large city park to burn off some energy. She watched as they chased each other, their laughter ringing through the crisp air. Leo was trying to climb a small boulder, his brow furrowed in concentration. Luna was collecting colorful leaves, presenting each one to her mum like a precious jewel. Serafina's heart swelled with a love so fierce it felt like it could power the whole city. At that very same moment, Ethan Thorne was driving aimlessly after another pointless argument with Victoria. Suffocating from the shallowness of his life, he felt a desperate need for something real. On an impulse, he pulled over and entered the same park. He walked along a path, his expensive shoes crunching on fallen leaves when he saw her. Across a field bathed in golden afternoon light was Serafina. She was kneeling on the grass, helping a little girl in a pink coat put leaves in a basket. She looked radiant, more beautiful than he remembered. Her laugh carried across the field, and the sound hit him like a punch to the chest. His heart started to pound. He felt a pull, a need to talk to her. As he started walking, the little boy who'd been climbing the rock tumbled to the ground. The boy began to cry, and Serafina rushed to scoop him up. As he turned his tear-streaked face towards Ethan, the world stopped. It was like looking in a 2-year-old mirror. The boy had his eyes, the exact same shape and color. He had his hair, his face. Ethan froze. Then he looked at the little girl, now standing beside her mother, and saw it again. His chin, his profile, they were his. The realization hit him like a tsunami. These were the twins. His twins. The children he'd dismissed. The family he'd thrown away. He stumbled forward, his legs feeling like lead. Serafina saw him, and her warm smile vanished, replaced by a calm, guarded mask. She stood up, holding Leo close as Luna clung to her leg. "Ethan," she said. Her voice wasn't angry or hateful. It was just calm. "Serafina, are they—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "Yes, Ethan," she said, her voice steady. "This is Leo, and this is Luna. They are your children." He stared at them, his millionaire's composure gone. He saw their perfect little faces, and the last 2 years of his life, the empty parties, the meaningless conversations, flashed before his eyes. It was all worthless. He'd been chasing fool's gold while he'd abandoned a real treasure. I didn't know," he stammered, the excuse sounding pathetic even to him. Serafina didn't flinch. "You didn't want to know. You made that perfectly clear. You told me they were a messy inconvenience that didn't fit your brand. Well, this is them. This is the mess you walked away from." Tears, real tears of regret, welled in Ethan's eyes. "Serafina, I am so sorry. I was a fool. Please, can I meet them?" Serafina looked down at her children, her entire world, and saw the confusion in their eyes. She would not let him disrupt their peace. "No," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Not today. They don't know you. You're a stranger. You don't get to walk back in 2 years later because you've suddenly grown a conscience. Our life isn't something you can buy your way into with a late apology." She adjusted Leo on her hip, took Luna's hand and turned to leave. "Wait!" Ethan cried out, desperation in his voice. "I can help. I can give them anything. Money, schools." Serafina stopped but didn't turn around. "They already have everything they want, Ethan. They have love. They have stability. They have a mother who would walk through fire for them. You think your money can buy what you threw away? True wealth isn't in a bank account. You taught me that when you left me with nothing but the 2 greatest treasures of my life." And with that, she walked away with the unshakable dignity of a woman who knew her worth. Ethan stood frozen, watching his family walk out of his life for a second time. This time, he knew it was for good. The autumn air was suddenly cold, and for the first time the millionaire Ethan Thorne was truly bankrupt. So what's the lesson in Ethan's story? Maybe it's a harsh one about karma. He spent 2 years building a life that looked perfect from the outside, only to have it all shattered by the reflection of the children he left behind. He learned, way too late, that the real fortune was the family he so easily discarded. Serafina's story, though, is one of incredible strength. It shows the power of a mother's love and what it means to rebuild a life on your own terms. She and her children, Leo and Luna, were more than fine. Their lives were a rich tapestry woven with love, art, and community. They didn't need a millionaire's fortune because they already had the greatest wealth of all. If this story about resilience moved you, we hope you'll give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. And that leaves us with one big question. What do you think Serafina should do if Ethan tries to contact her again? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.